to speak. So let me unmute you. Welcome, Kathy.
Hi, I'm Kathy. I'm an alcoholic. I want to share a little bit about my experience with alcohol, my experience with recovery, and my experience with relapse. I grew up on Long Island, east of New York City. We lived in a middle-class house. I went to a good public school. I had a father who was an alcoholic, though I had absolutely no idea he was an alcoholic until I admitted that I was one myself many years later. My parents are pretty aloof and pretty cold. And I don't think I ever felt unconditional love from them. So from the get-go, I felt like I had to perform for them. And the way that I performed was to be a good girl and to excel in school. And I did that. I did very well. It didn't change it didn't change them. But at least I felt that I had achieved something and that therefore I was at least worthy of love. I didn't really start drinking until I was really after college. I didn't start drinking until age 28. I had moved to Detroit to go to medical school. And I didn't know anybody in Detroit except for this one woman who introduced me to a whole crowd of people. And these were people who met in the bars at night. A group of people, one of them became my husband. I would go out to the bar to meet with them, but I actually was very poor and I didn't have enough money to buy my own drinks. After 2 years in college, I was really poor. I couldn't afford 25 cents for the bus. So of course I couldn't afford alcohol, and it wasn't really a compulsion with me yet. But I do remember in my third year of medical school that I was told that I actually could get some loans. I had been working as a bartender, believe it or not, in my first 2 years. But I applied for a loan and I actually had some money. So pretty soon after that, I bought my first bottle of bourbon. It was the cheapest bottle I could find, 10 High bourbon. And I still remember that bottle sitting on my shelf. It was larger than life. I really had achieved something. Here I was in school and I had a bottle of bourbon all to myself. So I think in some ways this illustrates sort of the multifactorialism of alcoholism. I obviously had a genetic predisposition, and now I had some money and I had a group of friends who drank a lot. And put those all together along with the stress of going to medical school. And it didn't take me all that long escalate my drinking and to finally reach a bottom. I look back at medical school, my training, as really a big trauma in my life, because they send you out, if you have a compassionate heart, they send you out to take care of people who are dying and you have absolutely no idea what to do. You know, to give an example, I I was taking care of a patient in the CCU. It was at night. I was on my own. And he went into this abnormal heart rhythm. He still had a blood pressure, but it was low and something had to be done. So I called the attending physician, who was a cardiologist. I suggested that he needed a pacemaker before I could give him medicine to suppress this rhythm, because I didn't know what was underneath it. And he said, oh no, just go ahead and give some lidocaine. And even though he did not reassure me, I really think, I still think that the man needed a pacemaker, but I had to give him this medicine that I thought might very well kill him. The next morning, another attending who I really respected came by and said, can you believe some idiot gave this guy this medicine? I told him I had called the attending and, that's what it was. But can you imagine that trauma of having somebody in front of you who may very well die if you give them a medicine and you have to give it anyway? To me, that was terribly traumatic. And that was just one example of many things in my training, because I really didn't know what to do a lot of the time. You would not have wanted to be my patient, but I was thrown into those situations. So along with the trauma and the availability of booze and friends who drank a lot, I just got into a real pickle. I got to the point where I was drinking every night, drinking more and more, enough so that, the next day, I was hungover. I wouldn't drink during work, but I was hungover, and I was becoming physically dependent on alcohol. I would wake up in the middle of the night with my hand shaking and have to go back to sleep without taking a drink, and go to work without taking the drink. And it was only after I was finished with work that I could come home and drink. And drink I did. Every night I would drive home from work and tell myself that tonight, I'm not going to wake up hungover again. So tonight I'm going to have maybe 2, maybe 3 drinks tonight, but that was it. I had no idea that it was the first drink that got too drunk. Anyway, we were having a lot of problems in the family, and so we decided to go for a geographic cure. We moved south to Tennessee, and within 3 days, I was in the emergency room with acute pancreatitis from my drinking. My blood alcohol level was high, and I was told that, yes, you have pancreatitis and we can take care of that, but there's a much deeper problem here. I just happened to, I didn't know any doctors in Tennessee, so I was just assigned a doctor who was on call, who just happened to be the son of one of the founders of the Impaired Physicians Committee. So he knew all about alcoholism. And he introduced me to a program for physicians, which was a wonderful program. I met the head of the program in the hospital, who explained what their program was, and I just had to admit defeat. I was very embarrassed to admit that I was an alcoholic, because I was a physician. Physicians aren't alcoholics. I kept thinking to myself, if only I was a janitor or something, I wouldn't mind it that much. But a doctor, how can I go out into the world and be a doctor who's a drunk? Anyway, they had a 2-year program. It's, most of the programs now are 5 years. But I got in with a group of people who were very helpful, who walked me through sobriety, who walked me through the 12-step program. And I managed to stay sober for 28 years. I got to a point where I didn't even go to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, because there weren't secular meetings at that time. And I hated AA meetings because of the God thing. I went for 10 years, but kind of reluctantly, and never felt that I had found my tribe, or that they had anything to offer me that was really helpful, except for maybe little sayings here and there. But during those 28 years, I didn't, after a time, I didn't think at all about drinking. I mean, it was wonderful. It wasn't a hardship for me. I just lived my life. I had never really learned to take care of myself. And during my first sobriety, in making amends, I had to make amends to my family and to my patients, even though I never drank during work or before, the morning of work. I did go in with hangovers, and I was not the best doctor I could be. So I was going to be the best doctor I could be, which meant, especially if you're compassionate, and I did maintain my compassion for my whole career. If you go in the middle of the night, whether you want to or not. You work very hard if you're trying to be the best doctor you can be. And I think I overdid it. It was tough, but I stayed sober until after I retired. There again were a number of factors that came together. First, I had a lot of dental work, and I was prescribed a lot of Norco. Not a lot, but every time I had a procedure, and there were multiple procedures, they would give me Norco. And I did get to the point where even when I wasn't having pain, I enjoyed those Norco. Then I sank into a very deep depression. I really, really wanted to die, but I couldn't die. I really didn't think that I could do something like that to my husband, who has been so wonderful to me. And so I drank, and it did make me feel better. And then I thought maybe I could do a little controlled drinking experiment. Well, I can tell you that didn't work. It worked for a while. I didn't get into any heavy trouble, but it was interfering. It definitely was interfering with my marriage, was interfering with my life. I thought I was doing well, but I wasn't doing well. And then one night, my husband went out of town for 3 days, and I did pretty well the first 2 days, but then the third day I said, my goodness, this is my last chance. So I discovered you could order alcohol online because I didn't have keys to my car. So I ordered, it was a bottle of Jameson, and I drank that pint, and I got to a point where I just kept falling. I fell and I really hit the floor hard, right on my head, over and over again. I can still hear the sound of my head hitting the hardwood floor. I managed to get to bed. I don't know why I didn't kill myself. I certainly could have had bleeds in my head. I could have not woken up, but I managed to wake up in the morning, and I did remember what happened. And I said, oh my God, I've had so much trauma, physical trauma. I really need to go and get checked out. So my son took me to the emergency room. They kept me for a day. They found out that my sodium was low, and that when I stood up, my blood pressure fell. And it was probably from the diuretics that I was on, and I've since stopped them. But it wouldn't have happened if I had started drinking. And to me, that was my bottom. I realized finally that when I took that first drink, I had absolutely no idea what was going to happen after that. And it certainly could be horrendous. And since that time, I haven't had a drink. It's only been a little over 7 months, but I feel firm in my sobriety. It got me to meet all of you. I've never had a recovery program like this. And every day I still go to meetings. I love having a community. I love every day thinking about how I can improve my life. My marriage is good, though my poor husband, he told me this morning that he had a nightmare that I went back to drinking. I hope I can get to a point where he doesn't have to worry about it. But that's up to me. I have, and I forgot to ask before, I don't know if it's possible. I would like to screen share a chart that I made after my relapse. Is that possible, Courtney? Can you make me a co-host or something?
Sorry, I was on another screen. I can make you a co-host, Kathy. Hang on 1 second. We'll do it right now.
Okay.
And you are a co-host now. And
thank you.
Almost. There you go.
All right.
You should see screen share right.
Yes, I see it. I see it. And here's my chart. This is what I realized about my drinking. When I take a drink, the vertical line is the blood alcohol level, and the horizontal, the y-axis is time. So x-axis actually. So I take a drink. This is my first drink of the day, and my blood alcohol level goes up, and then it reaches a peak, and then it starts going down. And what I realize now is I'm not made like other people. When my blood alcohol level is going down, I start to get uncomfortable, and I want to have another drink. So here I take another drink, and the same thing happens. And as the day goes by, suddenly my blood alcohol level is up in the zone where I can have blackouts, I can harm myself. I'm no good to anybody. Well, I don't have to get uncomfortable with a falling blood alcohol level if I don't take any drink. I like a chart. It reminds me, before I take my first drink, that this is going to happen, and you have no idea how it's going to turn out. I know it now. I know that I am an alcoholic and I can't have that first drink. And as long as I don't have that first drink, I'm going to be okay. And I can only do that with you people. And I can't do it on my own. I know I can't. And I finally have a group who can help me grow every day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kath.